So, Yandere Dev, I recently emailed him asking if he could answer a few questions, and he said yes, which is what you're going to see in this video. But before the actual video starts, I just wanted to give some context that this was not. I didn't force him to answer these questions. I gave him the opportunity to not answer the questions, and if he didn't want to answer certain questions, he didn't have to, so I didn't force him to answer these questions before you come at me. Alright, enjoy the video. How do you feel about the Dr. Apis situation?
The harassment from Apis fans was absolutely unbearable, so I reached out to the developer of the game that had stolen my assets and begged him to stop doing something so horrifically unethical. Because of the nature of the situation, I used very emotional language, such as, "You're ruining my life, you're destroying my project, you're ending my career," and so forth. I used a lot of these words interchangeably with one another: ruining, destroying, ending, etc. At one point, I told him that he was ending a person's life, which, within the context of the conversation, was very obviously a reference to the fact that he was ending my career by devaluing my life's work. The conversation ended on a positive note. However, he shared screenshots of our conversation with his moderators. His moderators completely misinterpreted my words, and thought that my statement about ending a person's life was an actual suicide threat, even though, within the context of the conversation, it was extremely obvious that I was not actually making anything even remotely similar to a suicide threat. The moderators posted these screenshots online, and started spreading the narrative that I suicide baited the guy. And people just believed it. Even though the screenshots that were posted didn't even have any references to suicide. Yeah. I take it back. We're not living in clown world. We are living in nightmare world.
How do you feel about people making memes about you?
In the early morning of January 20th, 2020, while I was asleep in bed, someone entered my Discord server for the sole purpose of spamming to see how quickly they would get banned. The image they decided to spam was an unflattering photograph of my face. Predictably, a moderator quickly banned them, not because of the picture they were posting, but for the fact that they were spamming. After getting banned, this person went to Twitter and said, "Yandere Dev banned me for posting this picture of his face. I wasn't the one who banned him, and he wasn't banned because he posted my face." However, even though it wasn't true, it was an entertaining concept, so that is the narrative that people chose to spread.
Is Yandere Simulator you trying to make your dream game?
No, Yandere Sim doesn't resemble what my dream game would be.
How did you regain access to the Yandere Simulator subreddit?
Contacted the admins and informed him of what had happened.
Have you gotten better at coding and game development from making Yandere Sim?
Anyone who has performed a technical analysis of Yandere Simulator's current code has wasted their time. The current code was never intended to be in the final retail version of the game. The current code is temporary placeholder code that was written purely to provide a playable demo that lets people get an idea of what the final game is supposed to be like. The code was written very quickly so that I could upload videos to YouTube on a regular basis. I explained all of this thoroughly in a video from 2018, and everyone seems to have forgotten about it. My goal since the beginning has always been to hold a crowdfunding campaign and hire a programmer to replace me. I've been saying this for years. In the event that Yandere Simulator's current code is used as a base for the final game, all of the current code would, obviously, be refactored and optimized first. Around 2015, when Yandere Simulator got popular on YouTube, I felt a lot of pressure to upload content as frequently as possible. I committed to a new video every 2 weeks upload schedule, which required me to hastily slap features into the game without regards for optimization or long-term maintainability. In order to maintain a steady upload schedule, Yandere Sim was developed almost exclusively in crunch time, from 2015 to 2017. During this phase of the game's development, I wasn't trying to write clean or efficient code. I was prioritizing the act of putting cool new features into the game as quickly as possible, so that I could make frequent uploads to YouTube. My plan, which has remained unchanged since the beginning of the game's development, was to produce a cool demo, hold a crowdfunding campaign, and use the money to hire a professional software engineer to completely replace me as Yandere Sim's lead programmer. I never intended for my code to be the game's final code, just a placeholder code that would be good enough to produce a playable demo that shows off most of the game's intended functionality. I explained this thoroughly in a November 2018 video titled "What's Going On with Yandere Simulator's Development." However, it seems that most people have forgotten or disregarded this video. To be honest, there is no point in analyzing code that was written under the circumstances described above. The game's current code was never meant to be final, just functional. It only needed to serve one simple purpose, allowing people to experience a playable demo so that they could make an informed decision about whether or not they'd like to support the crowdfunding campaign. Reviewing the code in its current state is about as meaningful as reviewing the earliest rough draft of a novel instead of reviewing the final published work. I'm fully aware of which scripts are suboptimal, and I know exactly what would need to be done in order to improve them. However, I intend to stick with the original plan, hold a crowdfunding campaign, hire a programmer to replace me, and then go through a refactoring phase. There are a lot of myths about Yandere Simulator's code. For example, a long chain of if-else statements can't possibly harm a game's frame rate if it's in a function which only runs for one frame and never runs again. The majority of statements that people make about Yandere Simulator's code aren't actually valid or accurate in the first place. These inaccurate statements are allowed to run wild because most people don't know enough about computer code to realize that they aren't hearing true or valid statements. The Unity profiler tells me that the CPU is spending an exceptionally long time on rendering, physics, path finding, and updating the UI. Even the game's most inefficient, suboptimal scripts are barely putting a dent in the FPS. The other factors are far more important. In January, my average frame rate was 30 FPS, but in May, my average frame rate jumped up to 55 FPS. This was not achieved by converting if-else statements to switch statements, but by optimizing occlusion culling and removing unnecessary physics operations. In the end, I severely regret my decision to commit to a new video every 2 weeks update schedule. In order to implement major features back-to-back on a tight deadline for multiple years, I had to make numerous sacrifices to the codebase's maintainability, and also in my personal life. Remaining in constant crunch time for a period of 2 years put me into a state of severe burnout, and had a tremendous impact on my physical and mental health. Because I have remained fully committed to Yandere Simulator for 6 years straight, I have never truly had an opportunity to recover from that burnout, and remain in that state to this day.
Will Yandere Simulator come to consoles?
Developing games for console is extremely expensive, so this is something that I can't promise unless Yandere Simulator is very financially successful, or unless I host a crowdfunding campaign to raise funds for releasing the game on other platforms.
Are there plans for a Yandere Simulator 2, or something set within the same universe as Yandere Simulator?
I think I have to finish the original before I can begin thinking of a sequel.
Thank you all for watching, and I will see you some other time. Goodbye.
This was a triumph. I'm making a note here.